be sensitive. Think about other people's viewpoints. Bear in mind that some people do feel very strongly and may be oversensitive on issues relating to race or stereotypical depictions of race or gender or sexual orientation or religion. It's not that you can't write about them, it's that you need to be sensitive to and respect the opinions of others. And my second bit of advice, going hand in hand with first, is don't overreact. Stay calm. Because here's the thing, writers need to have a thick skin. There is no book that was ever published anywhere that everybody loved, never once in the history of the world. The Great Gatsby got bad reviews when it was released. Now it's possibly the all-time great American novel. I've never published a book that everybody liked. Everybody, somewhere or another, will get a bad review or a one-star review on Amazon. That's just part of it. We are all different in some ways. We have different tastes, and there is no book that is for everyone. So just be tough and write it out. I wonder what would have happened. I can't guarantee it would have helped, but I wonder what would have happened if, the author had said she didn't intend this. She's going to rewrite to try and make it more sensitive and more appropriate, and maybe the novel will be delayed and have a different title, but she thinks she can do something important with her writing, and she's going to stick to it. To me, of course, that depends on what her publisher would permit, but to me, that would have been the better approach. Don't throw in the towel. Don't overreact. Just look for the solution. And of course, if you're sensitive in the first place, the problem might be avoided altogether. Bear in mind that we do live in a modern social media world, and do the best you can with it. Be sensitive. Don't overreact. My interview this time is with the Irish writer David Gaughran, the author of Let's Get Digital. That's also the title of his excellent blog. And he's got a new book out now called BookBub Ads Expert, where he tries to explain this extremely valuable but complicated way of marketing your book. We talk about a few other things too. Here's what David had to say. Dave, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You've got a new book out, BookBub Ads, right? Congratulations on the new book.
Came out about a week ago, I think.
Yeah.
It's going pretty well. Yeah, and the reaction has been pretty good too.
Doing fantastically well, it looks to me, and I've already had a chance to read it, and I thought it was genius. So tell everyone, to most people, BookBub is either that email they get every day with more books than they could read in a lifetime for not very much money, or that place where they keep trying to get a listing, but they can't break in. Tell everybody about BookBubs.
Yeah, so like the featured deal, if you're not familiar with BookBub's featured deals, I recommend just as a reader that you sign up to it, and because it is actually excellent. Like I buy books from the daily email all the time.
Yeah. And
you just go to the website bookbub.com, you put in your email address, you tell them which genres you like, and I think they've got 25 different categories now or something, and some of them are quite niche. So you can just tell them that you like crime fiction, you like books on cooking, and you like business books, and you'll get an email every day with the books will either be free or 99 cents or $1.99. So they're all going to be deals. Most of them will be from big publishers and big authors, and you'll get a few indies in there as well, a few undiscovered gems. And generally, the selection is quite great because they do a lot of curation. And this is where the author side becomes tricky because they don't accept anyone that submits and tries to get into the email. Mm-hmm. They say they only accept 20% of people that apply. But in my experience, unless you're someone like John Grisham or Stephen King, like they probably have a better than 20% chance of getting accepted. I think we can assume that. So our chances are probably a little worse than 20%. And in my experience, it is very tough to get picked.
Well, it used to be more focused on independent authors, but now that traditional publishing has discovered BookBub, they seem to be taking up a lot of the slots.
Yeah. So like at the start, I think, they were very wary of ever running a discount on a book or ever putting a book free. But, they're slowly learning and they're slowly seeing that, indies have gobbled up a huge chunk of the market, and they're starting to adopt some of the tactics that we use to promote books and to promote series, and using price cuts and making a book free or cheap, especially the first book in a series.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to adopt some of those tactics. I still think, to be frank, they're several years behind us, but they are starting to adopt those tactics. And when someone like Random House decides to start using BookBub, that has quite a big impact, because they've got a lot of big titles from
Mm-hmm.
big authors. So from BookBub's perspective, you can understand why they might pick someone like Nora Roberts over me. She has a few more readers than I do, so I can't really complain about that. But that's a huge audience that I want to access. Like, I think BookBub sends out, I think just for the featured deals, I think it's over 8 million emails a day.
Wow.
So there's like 8 million people on their list. And, you can get a featured deal and it costs you money. Like, depending on the category, it's anything from, I don't know, $200 or something for the smallest category, right up to over $1,000 for the biggest category, which sounds like crazy money. And it is crazy money to spend on an ad. But if you get picked for one of those featured deals, you're probably going to make that money, not only make that money back, you're going to probably double or triple that money within 24 hours. Like, BookBub has the power to put your book in the top 100 on Amazon, sometimes in the top 20. It really, there's nothing quite like it.
Mm-hmm. But even for those who can't get one of the featured releases, there are some advertising options, right?
Yeah. So if you get your daily email from BookBub and scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see this kind of squarish box at the bottom, which has a rotating selection of advertisements in it. It might be different every day that you open your email. You'll probably see a different book there. And that's more like a pay-per-click kind of advertising platform, similar to Amazon ads or Google ads or Facebook ads. And that's not curated. So pretty much anybody can advertise in that slot there. Once you're willing to pay for the privilege, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very powerful way to access that huge audience of millions and millions of readers. And the thing about BookBub is, like, these guys really are book buyers. Like, you can take a site like Goodreads, for example, which has tens of millions of people in that community, and you can put an ad up on Goodreads and it'll do nothing. Like, I don't think advertising was really baked into the site early on. With BookBub, people are expecting to get deals sent to their inbox every day. And if your advertisement at the bottom of that email is yet another deal, you will see pretty good take up on that. And it can be a very powerful way to push your books, especially something that is actually a deal, especially something that you're running, on maybe a countdown deal on Amazon for 99 cents, or you've made a book free for a few days. This can be a really powerful way of really, really pushing a lot of readers towards your series, because I personally find, at least, that the conversion rates on these ads are really, really high. And I think that's something that's a bit of a problem when you advertise on Facebook, and certainly on Amazon. The conversion rate can be tricky. I hear some people saying it can take 10, 15, 20 clicks to actually convert into a sale. Wow. Whereas with BookBub, I'm getting conversion rates of 20, 25% quite normally, sometimes even much higher than that. So that makes a big difference in terms of trying to make a profit with your advertising, which you obviously need to do, or else you won't have any more money to advertise again in the future. Right. But if you can turn a 3 or 4 clicks into a sale, that's gold.
Mm-hmm. When you place one of those ads, you go through this business of bidding, and you talk in your book about bid strategy. Can you discuss that a little?
Yeah, sure. And this is actually ties into one of the reasons why I think people bounce off BookBub ads as a platform. I know a lot of authors, they try it very quickly. They probably lose a little bit of money quite quickly. Mm-hmm. And then they swear like they're never doing it again. And I understand that like, I went through that process a couple of times myself before I actually started figuring out the platform properly. And you have to understand that it is different to any other platform that you've used. And one of the key differences is what I already stressed, that, this isn't something coming in someone's social media feed. These ads are primarily delivered by email. So that means that, all the sending happens around a certain time of day, pretty much. like all the serving of your ad. So that means your money can disappear very quickly if you aren't careful, if you aren't watching the ads. It also means that you'll get a lot more traction from a deal. It's kind of ironic that Amazon ads is probably the least price sensitive advertising platform, with this common perception about Amazon inspiring some kind of race to the bottom. I actually find full price books tend to fly better in Amazon ads than in any other advertising platform. Facebook is somewhere in the middle for me. And then BookBub, while you can advertise a full price book, usually you need to be quite good at BookBub ads before you be able to make that fly. Generally, because it is a deals newsletter and your ad is appearing at the end of these deals. And if Stephen King is selling a book for 99 cents and then you're asking for $4.99, I'm not saying it's impossible. You will get a couple of people maybe, but that's a tough sell. Let's be honest. Okay. Because they're going to have a lot of other options just in that email. But the thing about bidding, which you asked me specifically about, you get two choices when you run an ad on BookBub ads. And the choice is between CPC bidding, which is cost per click, which is something that most people are familiar with. You say, I'm not willing to pay more than 50 cent a click or whatever you decide. And, your ads may or may not serve depending on what everyone else is bidding. It's an auction like Google ads or like Amazon ads. With CPM bidding is very different. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with it, so they instinctively avoid it. You're not paying by click, you're paying by impressions. So you pay kind of for a block of impressions, like 1,000 impressions. And people don't instinctively understand it, so they automatically gravitate towards CPC bidding. But what I found after running huge campaigns on BookBub for the last couple of years is that if you run CPM bidding instead, you can drive the cost down of those clicks. I find that I can run big BookBub campaigns and get 25 cent a click or 50 cent a click, whereas people doing CPC bidding these days are paying close to $1 a click, which is, it's tough to make that work, $1 a click. Even with those high conversion rates, you're going to need a long series, right, and you're going to need a lot of sell through. And let's be honest, you're going to be borrowing from tomorrow's royalties to pay for today's ads. And I never like that situation.
Right.
I don't like to spend my royalty checks before they arrive. So yeah, I like to attack things from another way. So you can drive those click costs down to like 20 cents you can work with. You can work with that for sure. And you don't need to be looking at, selling the 8th book in your series to a customer before you turn a profit on that ad. I think there's, I know people can make that system work, but I like to approach it in another way.
Sure.
So CPM bidding, there is a risk attached to it, which, if your ads are bad and no one clicks on them, you're paying anyway for the ad. So you've got to make sure that you do enough testing that your ads are actually good. With CPC bidding, if your ads are bad, no one clicks on them, you don't pay anything. So there's less of a risk there, but there's way less of an upside. And I think what a lot of people are struggling with, and this goes with all the advertising platforms, is there's so much competition and some people are bidding so aggressively that often they can't get their ads to show unless they're bidding $1 or more or 80 cents or more. And that's, things are getting very tight then to make that work. So I think this is a good way around that kind of roadblock where you can really drive down your costs. You can make sure that your ads serve, which is especially important during, if you've only got a 5-day window to promote a new release or a free run or a 7-day window to promote a countdown deal, you really need to make sure those ads serve because you're not going to get many more bites at the cherry. So that's one huge advantage of CPM bidding as well, is that you're guaranteed a level of serving. Once your bid is high enough to make your ad show, it will serve and it will spend that money very quickly. So you got to kind of micromanage it.
Do you have any thoughts on when the best time to advertise is? Should people do it when the book's on pre-order or when it's brand new or 6 months later when they're trying to revive sales? What works best?
I actually don't like pre-orders that much because I know people tend to be very fond of them for all sorts of reasons. But like I spend a lot of time thinking about how the Amazon algorithms work and how you can maximize your visibility in the Kindle store. And one thing that I've found is that Amazon kind of suppresses pre-orders a little bit in the sense that, when you launch a book or you run a promotion, sometimes you get a little halo off that promotion. So you might just advertise heavily for, 4 or 5 days or push it out to your social channels or to your email list or whatever. And then you mightn't be doing so much to promote the book. You mightn't be doing anything to promote the book in that second week, but it keeps selling. It's kind of bedded in a certain rank, and Amazon is kind of doing the selling for you at that point. I find that doesn't really happen with pre-orders, that Amazon